Hi, everyone. Hi, this is Dr. Victoria Nalule. Hi, this is Dr. Victoria Nalule. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Nalule Energy and Mining Consultancy. NEM Energy, in brief, is an international consulting firm, and we do lots of work with respect to oil, gas, energy transitions, climate change, and the mining sector. So we do lots of consultancies, international consultancies, and also for tailored research at the national level, regional level, you can reach out to us. And we also do executive training and capacity building in these sectors. So we're continuing with our series of webinars or videos. And in today's session, I want to talk about the increasing role of transparency and good governance in the extractive industries. So in the previous video I talked about the circumstances under which the resources can stay in the ground, or the circumstances when it's justifiable to leave the resources in the ground. And one of the reasons was if there is no good governance and transparency in the country, then it's better for the resources to stay in the ground until when they can ensure good governance so that everyone benefits from the resources. So in today's video, I specifically want to highlight the role of transparency. We all know with transparency, it requires that the contracts are made public. It requires the disclosure of the contracts, the fiscal instruments, and the legal framework governing the extractive industries, that is oil, gas, mining. But why is this important? Why is transparency important, and how can we use it to our benefit? How can the different stakeholders use transparency as a tool in ensuring that they monitor what is happening in the extractive industries? So this video is all about that, and I prepared a few slides just to help you understand and also to help you follow up as I'm discussing transparency. So let me get to the slides. So yeah, the role of transparency and good governance in the petroleum sector, but I'll just discuss it with respect to the extractive industries. So the first thing is transparency is key because it's a tool that can ensure that all the stakeholders benefit from the extractive industries. But what does it entail? What does good governance entail? And one of the components of good governance is the issue of transparency. There are different components of good governance, but transparency is one of the components of good governance, and also ensuring that there is no corruption in the extractive industries, and ensuring that the laws are implemented, because you can have transparency for the legal framework, fiscal instruments, and the contracts, but they're never implemented or respected. So also implementation is key. And one of the initiatives, international initiatives that really has been enhancing transparency in the extractive industries is the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the EITI. And it requires the disclosure on how the extractive sector is managed, including the disclosure of all contracts, laws, and procedures that apply to the extractive industries. So if you look at the requirements of the EITI, one of the essential requirements is the disclosure of the laws, contracts, and procedures that apply to the extractive industries. So once this disclosure is there, how can it be used as a tool in the extractive industries? So first and foremost, it gives an opportunity all the different stakeholders, including governments, companies, civil society, to have a clear idea of what is going on. And if you look at requirement 1.3 of the EITI requirements, is to the effect that the government must ensure that there is an enabling environment for civil society participation with regard to relevant laws, regulations, and administrative rules, as well as actual practice in the implementation of the EITI. The fundamental rights of civil society substantively engaged in the EITI, including but not restricted to members of the multi-stakeholder group, must be respected. So these are some of the requirements for the EITI, but our focus, we want to focus on the importance of transparency. But before that, we can look at requirement 1.1 of the EITI, which is to the effect that the implementing countries must disclose a description of the legal framework and the fiscal regime governing the extractive industries. So this is very key because it enables the disclosure of the relevant instruments, not only the legal instruments, but also the fiscal regime. So in this discussion, I want to talk about the role of transparency, looking at three main areas. First, with respect to environmental protection. Second, with respect to the legal framework. And then third, with respect to the fiscal regime. So with the legal framework, transparency is key. With the legal framework, transparency is key, especially with respect to the contracts countries sign with the international oil companies. So once there is transparency, the stakeholders can use transparency as a tool to monitor the various clauses that are negotiated in these oil and gas contracts. And some questions to ask yourself: are the clauses beneficial to the government? Are the clauses beneficial to the international oil company? Are the clauses beneficial to the communities, the local communities, and the country at large? And in this era of energy transition, another thing you would ask is, do the clauses, petroleum provisions in oil and gas contracts, do they align with the energy transition policies and the net zero goals in the country concerned, or they do not? You can view some clauses like the stabilization clauses, the arbitration clauses. What is the legal implication of these clauses? And how is it likely to affect the development of the extractive industries in your country? So that is the legal, the importance of disclosing legal instruments. And then for the fiscal instruments, the first thing you need to look out for is how much revenue is the host state getting from the extractive projects. Look at the fiscal instruments, look at the provisions relating to taxation. Are there subsidies? Are there incentives that are being given to the extractive industries? And the question you need to ask yourself, how are these incentives likely to impact the country positively or negatively? And still in this era of energy transitions, you can ask yourself, how are the fiscal instruments likely to impact the country's move towards a low carbon economy? Or do the fiscal instruments support the energy transition policies? So those are some of the two questions you need to ask about the legal instruments and the fiscal instruments. And then for the environmental provisions, transparency can be used as a tool to analyze whether the environmental provisions in oil and gas contracts, whether they enhance energy transition or not. Are the environmental provisions effective to minimize the environmental impacts associated with the extractive industries or not? Some of the clauses to look out for when you are using transparency as a tool: look at the decommissioning clauses. How effective are they? There's some key questions you need to ask with respect to decommissioning. Look out for clauses that support the deployment of clean technologies like carbon capture. Are there incentives to encourage companies to deploy clean technology in the extractive industries or not? And also you can look out for the clauses that are likely to impact the societies. Are there clauses like local content that are intended to support the local communities or even the nationals in that country? So This is a short video because we are going to, we shall do a series of videos with respect to transparency in the extractive industries or in the oil and gas contracts. But this is just an introductory video to let you know that transparency is key, good governance is key, and if these do not exist in a country, then the resources are as good as remaining in the ground. Thank you very much, and stay tuned because we are doing various videos, series of videos. So stay tuned and look out for more videos on good governance and transparency in the extractive industries. And do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye-bye.